let's start. I want to talk about the new album, Point of No Return, Live and Beyond. Now, this follows on from the 2017 Leftoverture, Live and Beyond again. Did you feel any additional pressure when you were out on the road and these were being recorded, knowing that you were in effect putting your own stamp on what were two of the most successful albums in Kansas catalog?
No, actually, and one of the benefits was I was never really sure when Chad was recording or when he wasn't recording. So I think that's a good thing, not to have that, me personally anyway, not to have that in the back of my mind that, oh, we're recording tonight, you know, I got to really pay extra special attention, you know, because I really like that, to be candid, you know, to be raw. And I'd like to think that I really try to do the best I can every night and try to push myself beyond my own boundaries. So did I know we were recording? Yes. Did I know exactly when? No. And that's a good thing. And it was this album was recorded over, you know, quite a few shows that gave Chad Singer, our front of house sound man, and also who engineered and produced this record and did an absolutely outstanding job. It was really great to have to have that not in the back of my mind, you know, and you know, it's not like Chad was coming to us every night and going, okay, we're recording tonight. Everybody be, you know, conscious of that. That never happened. And I think that's a good thing.
I think the biggest compliment that I can pay you is that as much of an icon as Steve Walsh obviously was, I never actually thought about him once whilst I was listening to that album or to Absence of Presence last year.
Tim, where do I send the check?
Somewhere in Switzerland.
Oh, wow. Thank you. You know, boy, you know, it's really something, you know, to think about Steve's body of work. He's always been my idol, and I attribute the development of my voice from emulating primarily Steve, my favorite singers, you know, Steve Walsh, Steve Perry, Lou Gramm, John Anderson, you know, the list goes on. But my two guys were Steve Walsh and Steve Perry. And, you know, to be in the position that I'm in, and now after so much time, you know, after being in the band, God, Tim, I've been in the band 7 years. Oh my God. Time flies when you're having fun. But, you know, to fill the shoes of a guy that I just idolized my entire life it's an honor. Really it is. And you know, boy, when I want inspiration, I'll put on two for the show, you know, the live album from back in the 70s. And Steve is just, he is on fire on that album, and it inspires me to, you know, to do the best I can. And, you know, and this album just, wow, it really came out, it really came out fantastic. We're really happy with it.
The beauty, I think, of the aging process amongst the musicians of the caliber of Kansas, your band, and many others of your genre, is that listening to a live album like this, you're hearing the culmination of 40 odd years of road work and studio work. And it's a showcase of how very good a live act that you really are.
Yeah, and boy, I can't say enough about Phil and Rich, who have been, doing this nearly a half century now. Along with Billy Greer, that's been with the band so long. It really is. There's a level in this music that really commands a massive amount of tension, and the members past and present who have just honed their craft to this music, I mean, it's pretty incredible. This is not simple stuff. This is music that you need to drill. And Tim, I'll tell you, this band does not stop drilling. And it shows in the music. I mean, one of the biggest compliments I get is when, someone says, God, you guys make it look easy. Well, it's really, it's not easy music, but it's, honing your craft on this music, and with the guys in the band, especially Phil and Rich, doing it so long, it becomes such second nature to them. And it's a level of musicianship that not many musicians achieve, but they've kept the Kansas flavor going. And it really is an amazing thing to think about all the years they've been doing it and keeping up the level of quality.
Your arrival and performance on the Prelude Implicit and the Absence of Presence seems to have raised the interest levels, certainly the sales, because both were chart successes, and given the band maybe a bit of a reboot. How much has that meant to you, knowing that the fans around the world have taken you on board and they're listening and liking everything that you do in large numbers?
It's flattering beyond any dreams. I've I've seen videos of musicians that have taken place of original members. If you've ever seen the documentary Hired Gun, where they're interviewing a lot of musicians that have taken place of original members, and the audience wasn't exactly accepting in a lot of cases. And when I initially got the job, it's there was always that fear of how is the audience going to accept me? And I couldn't hope for the acceptance that I've received. I've gotten so many nice messages, and it really shows in our live performance, the audience reacting to the music. And the byline of Kansas is it's about the music. It's not about any particular individual in the band. Whereas, you look at a band like Aerosmith and you automatically think of Steven Tyler. You think of Van Halen, you're going to think of Eddie Van Halen, and, there's just that association with those bands and the immediate association with the people in that band. Whereas when you think of Kansas, I'd like to think that people automatically think about the music and not the individuals in the band, because that's really what it is all about with us.
The reviews of Absence of Presence in particular must have been beyond pleasing. It was generally felt that this was music that was comparable with the best work that Kansas had produced. Do you remember where you were when the numbers started to roll in? You saw it beginning to chart all over the world, and the reviews were great. Do you remember where you were when it all started to happen?
We've done so many shows, I forget where I was, but I know that the information started coming in over time, and our managers, JR or Rusty, would, mention to us, hey, the album went #1 or #2 in Sweden, and is, this went up on is playing this much in England and Germany, and it's just it's surreal to me. It really is, to have the album so well received, and when you're recording the album, you're writing the music and the lyrics, you're not, at least not in this band, you're not thinking about writing for the audience so much as you are writing for yourself and making yourself happy and keeping that Kansas level of and musical integrity up. I think that's the focus. But to have it come back to me, to hear reports, along the way of, and even as late as today, to just see how the album is being so well received and how much people love this album. It's just so satisfying. It's so gratifying. I don't know how to describe it other than it's a dream.
Not everybody outside of the US knows your story of how you arrived at Kansas frontman, but it's a remarkable tale of perseverance. I mean, you had your first taste of your music and live bands back in the 1970s, spells with Shooting Star and others. You had this communication with Survivor and Jeff Jacobs of Foreigner. After those close calls, did you just think, well, you know what, maybe it's just not meant to be for me?
It is pretty discouraging. Actually, the first band that I really had a chance of getting into was Survivor. And with Survivor being a Chicago band, knowing the band's music and knowing the guys in the band, and not getting that job, it was such a disappointment. But in hindsight, it prepares you. It gives you thick skin for rejection. And in this business, you need to be thick-skinned. You can't please all the people all the time. People have different tastes, and opportunities may come and opportunities may go. With me, it's just always been, I'm going to do what I love. And gosh, I started playing bars when I was 17, 18 years old. Not exactly the most brilliant places, I will say. But again, I just always loved what I did. And with every show, my next show, my attitude was, I want to be better than my last show. And the Survivor thing was extremely disappointing. But again, it prepared me for rejection. You could be the best singer, the best guitar player, the best keyboard player in the world, but if you don't fit that particular group, it's not going to come to fruition for you. So to lose out on a couple of opportunities here and there, and auditioning for Foreigner and meeting Jeff Jacobs was an amazing thing. But I knew that was extremely a slim chance. My resume when I met Jeff Jacobs, my resume pretty much just said cover band singer from Chicago. I did very little original stuff. It seemed like the bands that I was in really didn't have much of a desire to do original music, but I wanted to keep singing. I wanted to hone my craft no matter what I was singing. So with the Foreigner thing falling through, then I became the lead singer of Shooting Star in 2007, meeting Van McLean. And to me, it's just amazingly ironic how a guy from Chicago ends up in not one, but two bands that originated from the state of Kansas, both with violin players, both with, progressive roots. It's pretty wild. But I love the music in Shooting Star, and it was experience, and pretty much I think it prepared me and paved the way for my way getting into Kansas. And
well, that was a big chunk of good fortune there, wasn't it? It was Dennis DeYoung's niece, wasn't it, Dina, who actually
yes,
alerted you to Steve Walsh's retirement, and then you fire off an email.
And it was really throwing, caution to the wind, I guess. I got a text message from Dina, Dennis DeYoung's niece, who's a longtime friend and longtime fan. And, she said, "Did you see this?" And it was the advertisement of Steve Walsh's departure in Kansas. And usually when you see stuff that has already been released to the press, you immediately think, just like Journey. Oh, Journey, announces, they have a new singer, or, when that stuff hits the press, they've already been working for a while. They have a replacement. And I really went out on a whim and just messaged Rich Williams. And I know Rich and I had talked a few times in the past, and I just wrote, "Rich, Ronnie Platt from Shooting Star, give me some consideration." And that was on a Wednesday. Rich emailed me back on Thursday, and I talked to him on Thursday. I talked to Phil on Friday, flew to Atlanta on Monday, and Tuesday found out I got the job. So, I mean, it was such a whirlwind, and it happened so fast.
You were actually sat in your truck, weren't you?
I was
at an unloading stop.
I was in my truck, in my 18-wheeler, sitting in a loading dock, checking my email after returning from Atlanta the day before, and got the email from Phil Lehart that said, "Congratulations, you got the job. The band is pumped." Not as pumped as I was at that moment, I'll tell you. Pretty, and then there's that element of shock, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. It really was, that moment in my brain. Is this really happening? And here we are 7 years later, and 2 studio albums and 2 live albums. And
do you remember Oklahoma City 2014, your first live gig? Now there is a bit of a story here, because everything had been going well in the build up. You were looking forward to it, and you watched a program on VH1.
Yes,
and you about how tough Lawrence Gowan had found it, stepping in for Dennis DeYoung.
Tim, you have done your homework. Yeah, that I think the word that describes it best is terrifying. Incredibly bad timing to see that VH1 Behind the Music with Styx. Again, another Chicago band that I have a close association with, and to see Lawrence talk about taking Dennis's place and Styx, and the audience not exactly being the most friendly, with some choice words for Lawrence. And I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my God, Lawrence is taking the place of Dennis, and look at the reaction that he's getting. I'm taking the place of a guy that people just have such a devout loyalty to. I mean, people who are Steve Walsh fans are Steve Walsh fans, not to the bone, to the marrow, you know? And I'm like, you know, and again, it was, in hindsight, it was probably good that, it, you know, because it prepared me for, okay, you know, if I get negative reaction, look at, oh my God, Brad Gillis, when he took Randy Rhoads' place in Ozzy's band, they were not kind to Brad, you know, and, you know, I have this going through my mind, but that first show, it was cold, it was rainy, and to have all those fans still standing out in that weather, I think they were really interested to see the new Kansas product. And luckily, I had a brother in arm there, Dave Mannion, who joined the band as a musician the same time as I did. Dave was also lighting director for Kansas for quite a few years. But we kind of, you know, shared the same excitement and the same fear going out. But you know, at least he had a B3 to hide behind. I was an open target, but it went great. It really did. It really was the springboard, that first show launch of, you know, seeing how acceptive the audience was, and it only grew from there. And
are you in a place now where all of that original nervous tension is gone, but you still get that great sense of excitement whenever you wake up in the morning?
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm still as nervous before a show. I think it's a good thing too, to keep the, you know, because it gets the adrenaline going, it keeps my energy up. But I'm just as nervous at the beginning of a Kansas show now as I was 7 years ago, as I was about to do a show in Shooting Star. And in my entire career, there's always that excitement of performing, and that's a good thing.
You said that you were obsessed with emulating Lou Gramm, Steve Perry, John Anderson, Geddy Lee, Brad Delp. I mean, those are some very high standards that you set yourself. But I did see in a review of your first album that you were compared to a cross between Tommy Shaw and Paul Rodgers. Now, he's known as the voice of rock. That must have been a pretty good comparison.
Paul Rodgers, oh my God, the voice of rock, no doubt. I've seen Paul in the past, and just wow, just mesmerizing. Wow, to be compared to those guys, how flattering. Does it get more flattering than that? But you know, you mentioned those names, and you know, when you start singing or you start playing guitar or an instrument, and you try to emulate the people that inspire you, and it gets to a point where you really are, it's for me anyway, it's like taking Steve Walsh, Steve Perry, Brad Delp, you know, all these singers that inspired me, putting them in a blender, and that's what you get from me, because I'm inspired by all those, you know, just great musicians, which, you know, that they are on just an extreme level. Oh my God, you have me thinking of Brad Delp now. What an amazing voice.
Incredible.
You know, just what an amazing singer. So, you're a product of your inspirations, and you at least for me anyway, trying to emulate them over the years, but it did kind of like mix in, and I've developed my own vocal personality from that. But boy, to be compared to those guys, that's quite flattering.
Last question. Where do you go from here then, from the live album? Lockdown eases. I imagine you'll want to be getting out live on the road again. You've got some dates in on your calendar. What about our next studio album? Any plans there? Have you been writing in lockdown?
Yeah, that's, it has been one of the positive things of being home. And when I originally talked to Phil and Rich, they told me that Kansas would do between 45 and 60 dates a year. Well, my first full year in Kansas, we did 98. The next year we did 99. And in between that, we wrote the Prelude Implicit and recorded it. So it's really been quite the workload. But with having this time off, it gave us a chance to experiment, hone our craft in different areas, and do some writing. And I think it's very possible to see yet another studio album in the not too distant future, whether it be next year or the year after. We don't know yet, but what we do know is we have a ever-growing list of shows now that things are relaxing from lockdown some, and we are getting back to an intense touring schedule. That's really our focus right now, is it's in this band's blood to perform live. It always has been, and to have that finally getting back to somewhat normal and making up for lost time. That's our vision right now. Just getting back and playing our shows and bringing our live show to our fans.
On Twitter? You must be on Twitter.
No, I am not on Twitter.
I didn't. Do you know what? I thought you were going under some pseudonym or something because I couldn't find you.
It's one of those things that I'm going to start my Twitter account tomorrow, and then the day after, It always seemed to fall on the back burner. It's something I need to do. This
is all baggage, I suppose. Really, did you understand just exactly how much of this press and promotion and talking to people, endless conversations, social media? Did you realize how much of this was involved when you became the frontman of a very famous band?
I had no clue, Tim. It was funny. I think it was like 2 years ago, Phil called me and he said, you now hold the media record for Kansas. Cause I did like, it was some insane amount of, it was 19, 20, 21 interviews all in one day. I know I was kind of jello at the end of the day, did I just do that? But you know what? I'm talking to someone new every time. And, Kansas is just something we're very proud of. And you know what? I love talking about Kansas, and I love, bringing Kansas to people's attention. So it never, even after 7 years of thousands of interviews, it never gets old to me. It really doesn't. I really enjoy it, and talking to new people such as yourself all the time. It's nothing but a joy to me.